I remember I was in Seattle about 10 years ago, and I was carrying a pistol in church. I had a P7 on. That's before a lot of people carried guns in church. And I brushed by the pastor and our priest in the hallway, and he bumped into my pistol, and he just looked at me and stopped. He goes, "You carrying a gun in church?" I'm like, "Mm-hmm." He goes, "Why would you do something like that?" I said, "Well, evil don't take Sunday off." Hey, welcome back to an Over the Barrel episode. I'm here with my friends Lance and Jack from SNIPER BLADEWORKS. We're going to talk a little bit about who they are, what they're bringing to the table, and what they do, where they do it, and why it's important to all of us to know. All right, so welcome, guys. We're happy to have you here.
This building's gorgeous.
Well, thank you very much. It's really easy to come to work every day, and I know the people that have watched the other episodes of Over the Barrel are tired of hearing me say it, but it really is. It makes me smile to walk in this door every day. So
it's impressive. I think the space is great, and the decor, I guess, for lack of a better word, but is nice. The signage is good. It's like you have a massive selection of stuff.
Yeah, and not everybody does, right? So it's been, the secret to our success is we're factory direct. We don't do too much through two-step distribution. So that's the secret to us always having products on the shelf for our customers.
So you're not having to beat up Justin over ellipses for stuff.
No, that's good news. I mean, and the fact ellipses does great business, and then we buy a few things from them. Like we'll buy some of their ellipses specific products that our customer wants, but for the most part, we go directly to the manufacturer.
I like the scout rifle that Ellipses does, where it has wood.
Oh.
It has more of a throwback look, I think.
I see. Is it a Ruger gun?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I think that's the only place you can get it in wood.
Well, I think I have one of those back there in left-handed bolt action throw. Because I'm not
a lefty.
I'm wrong-handed.
You golf from the other side of the ball?
No, I bat right-handed and I golf right-handed, but I write and shoot left-handed.
Okay.
Only because of the equipment when I was growing up, We weren't rich enough to be able to afford left-handed items. Right. And my dad taught me to bat from the crick side of the batter's box. So.
Nice.
So who are you? Talk to me. How does this happen?
I'm Lance. And Todd and I and a handful of our friends, my dad as well, have all been knife enthusiasts. Mm-hmm. I've been a knife guy since I was a little kid. And we had started going to Blade Show back in, 2004, somewhere in there, and collecting knives and doing some higher end stuff. And about 2007, 8, Todd and I were working at the sheriff's department, mm-hmm. and I was kind of getting over it. I was looking to do something else. I had probably about 15 years left before I could retire, and I realized I would become an alcoholic if I had to stay that long. And I didn't want to be that bitter old dude that people didn't want to work with. I really enjoyed the 13 years I did there, mm-hmm. and then it was time to do something else. So in our knife travels, I'd become friends with Jody Muller, who's a high-end knife maker, who's also in Missouri. He does engraving as well. He was a jeweler and a watchmaker once upon a time. And he started showing me how to make knives. And about 2009, I was like, all right, let's give this a shot. And we had started doing a few things with SNIPER BLADEWORKS, doing some tactical folders and a few fixed blade things. And then somewhere in there, I just was like, all right, I'm quitting. I'm going to do this full time. And Todd helped me. He was still at the sheriff's department, but he helped. And then he's stayed with us ever since. So we've worked together off and on this and other things. Todd what's your job now?
I'm a federal physical security specialist.
Oh, wow.
So out of the Ford, out of Leavenworth.
Out of Leavenworth.
Oh, cool. Right on. Yeah.
But that's kind of, so I guess we did a lot of high-end stuff in the beginning, working with Jody, and we had a lot of high-end materials. And we would enter them into some of the contests at these shows, like for best tactical folders. And to begin with, they won a couple. And then somewhere in there, a year or two after that, they kind of changed their parameters on how they judged it. They're like, I can't have Damascus. It can't have mammoth ivory. Even though all those things have been stabilized, they're still quite durable. So we're like, all right, well, let's make one that's not so nice and enter it. And that was kind of in that same time frame where I was thinking about doing something else. So that brought the price down, and we just started making more standard tactical things, and it was pretty well received. And then somewhere in there, I was like, all right, I'm going to punch out.
Right on.
Try this full time, and it's gone pretty well for the most part.
That's fantastic.
It's a little feast or famine some years or months, but
Well, it's same in the gun business for sure, right? I have to apologize to you. I called you Jack earlier. My bad. It's Todd.
Well, that's my real name,
Oh,
Todd. My nickname is Jag.
tell them your last name.
Jag.
Yes. My last name is Jagodzinski.
Oh, okay.
So we just shortened it.
I understand. I get it. I bet it was really cool on a name tag on your sheriff's uniform.
Oh yeah, it was awesome. They charged me extra.
So sorry about that. So sorry for calling you Jack instead of your name. My bad.
We both answered to just about everything.
Well, I'm the same way. Just as long as you don't call me late for dinner, right?
Right.
There you go.
Exactly.
Right on. So, how long have you been? So you're out of Kansas City, the Kansas City area.
Yep.
So you're close, right?
Yeah, like
Yeah.
to here it was, I don't know, less than 3 hours.
Right. So you're a local. To us, you're a local vendor for us, right? And we always like to support the local people that are making quality products around us because one, it's easy to deal with, and two, the people we serve in our local community want to also spend their money locally. So it's easy for us to have a great relationship with teams like yours.
Yeah, we've always, I say that always, when we started in my condo or townhome. So we were in a one-car garage, which was kind of interesting, but we were able to get pretty good work done there. And then we were in a barn building not far from there for a minute. But after that, all of our shops have been down in North Kansas City. And that's a neat area. And there's a bunch of tactical guys, like all within 2 blocks of each other. You have GA Precision that builds the sniper rifles. Badger Ordnance is down there,
Yeah.
Marty. Moon over at Crescent Custom is their Manor Stocks, right? Is it MCS or?
Yeah.
But Tom Manners makes like world-class stocks. I mean, I'm pretty sure he competes with the McMillans and other people of the world, and does that like the 2-mile shot, kind of long-range stuff. But he makes real nice hunting rifle stocks and tactical stocks. And so that's kind of weird that all those guys and us as well are all within 2 blocks of each other.
I think there's a hydro dip guy that's right down there too.
It's been good for us as well because we can get some, I'm not a machinist. I'm not very mechanical. I've never had a shop class. I just like knives. So I learned how to make knives.
Right.
And, but occasionally I run into some machining issues or questions. And it's nice having that wealth of knowledge right there local.
Well, you guys always probably help each other out in ways you're not even aware of, huh?
Oh yeah.
I'm not
That's
sure
good.
how much we help them, but they help us quite a bit.
Well, sooner or later they'll stop if you're not giving back. So I'm sure you are some way or another.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I worked for a gentleman that some years ago that taught himself to sew and built a multi-million-dollar tactical nylon business out of that. Out of his barracks room. So I understand where you're coming from, and I know that personality, and it's rare, right? That someone will have the fortitude to say, you know what, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm gonna figure it out.
Yeah, and I think if you knew ahead of time, you might not have done it. I mean, I kind of knew that. I knew it was going to kind of be a pain in the ass.
Right.
But I'm like, I don't really need to know all the details because it may scare me off. I'm just going to go ahead and jump in
Oh
and
my
see
gosh,
what happens.
I don't think that's true at all. I think he still would have done it, no problem. He wouldn't have let you off the hook.
Nope.
No, and he's been good. He's helped me a ton through the years because we've had more help and less help over the years. With guys get married or new girlfriends or have kids, so
Sure.
they can't show up as much. And so Todd's always been real stable and kind of kept me grounded and helped me get stuff made.
So that was in the beginning, and now you're in like a full production mode of these things.
So about 2.5 years ago, give or take.
Yep.
A friend of ours, that my brother Nick, who also works for us and is one of the owners, this kid he went to school with, who's a family friend, over the years they'd always talked about trying to get me some help because we could never make custom knives fast enough to get them out. And it just, the stars didn't align. But so somewhere in like 19, he calls me up and says, hey, do you still want to do something? And I wasn't doing much at the time. I still had the business and we made a couple things, but somewhere in there we'd stuck most of it in storage while I was kind of trying to figure out what I wanted to do, and I was working some security to pay the bills. And I said, yeah, I'd be real excited, but I think we want to do a production run. I still want to make customs, but I want to get to make customs. I don't want to have to make customs.
Right.
And I also want to get more knives in more people's hands. Where we really enjoy the custom side of it, they're just expensive. There's just a lot of time in it. Materials are expensive, and a lot of our guys couldn't afford our knives. Hell, I couldn't afford it. I owned like one at a time. I've never owned more than about one at a time of my own knives because they cost too damn much.
Sure.
So we wanted to do this production thing, so we took 5 of our very popular models. We got a hold of Mikey that does V knives out of Seattle.
Yep, I know Mikey very well.
Mikey's awesome, right? And Mikey's, the only thing he's really ever done from out of high school through his whole adult life is work on the production knife side of things.
Yep.
He can make you a custom if you want.
I knew him when he was at Blade Tech, I think.
Yeah, you know where he worked prior to that?
No.
He worked for Spyderco before it was Spyderco.
I'll be dang.
It was Golden Manufacturing back then.
And he knew another gentleman named Vince Ford. And Vince worked with me at Tactical Tailor. Vince was our tool maker at the end of his life.
Vince Ford's awesome. Plus he's British. I like the accent, or wherever he was from.
Yeah, he had a mouthful of marbles for sure.
But yeah, somehow it just sounds more interesting with the accent.
They sound more intelligent. They can tell you to get bent, and then you like it for some reason because of the accent, right?
There's something charming about it.
But Vince was a fine gentleman, and he made some custom knives for us as well. There's one on the wall at my house, and Mikey was in the office all the time when he had questions for Vince. So I used to see Mikey quite a bit.
Because Mikey's a smart cat. He's got like 3 or 4 patents to his name. And he's always been real helpful. So we'd always kicked around the idea of a production thing. So when this happened, so Nick's friend is from Kansas City. His name's Adam. So he's our partner. But he lives out in Portland now. So I'm like, you need to go see Mikey. And Mikey's just in Seattle. So I guess that's like Kansas City to St. Louis.
Yeah, it's a couple hours.
So I put them together, and they hit it off and thought it would work. And just each stage of this process, everything seemed to fall in place, and the stars just kept aligning. And so we got a hold of Mikey's manufacturer, who's been really, really good to us. And we banged out that 5-knife run to start with, ran it through Kickstarter, which was kind of interesting and kind of scary. I'd like to do a Kickstarter thing again where everything wasn't riding on it. I think it'd be more fun.
Right, of course.
Because there was some nail-biting moments in there. And that's kind of how we started the production side of things. And I really like it because the production knives, in some ways, are better than the customs. The tolerances are tighter because of the machining. And there's features that we can add to that would either be too costly or too time consuming to do. It's like the LPCs are just amazing. They run on bearings now. They have an insert where they lock up, and it also keeps the lock bar from overthrowing.
Sure. And which knife is the LPC? Do we have one here?
It's the orange guy that's sitting out there.
Here.
Okay, right on. Yep, that's the one I like.
That was the first thing we came up with. We won the Blade Show award, the Tactical Folder Award with a custom one, which was pretty cool. At the time, that was one of the hottest markets, so I was really...
Talk to me about the angle on that knife. I noticed that it's got an angle on it, so it's almost like, it's like most knives, especially the folder it's in my pocket when you open it up, the handle is on line with the blade tip.
Right.
So that design's a little different.
I like everything to have a little bit of pistol grip to it. I feel like it gets the knife pointing down range without having to cant your wrist way over.
Okay.
That hump on the back will take up that gap in your hand if you've got it in kind of a saber grip, We try to make them really ergonomic. We really sort of a lot of times design the handle and then make the blade. Prior to starting the knife company, or in the beginning stages of it, I just went through all the knives that I owned. And I started picking out, why do I like this one better than another? What's more comfortable in it or less comfortable? And I felt like Eli Wallach in The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly when he assembles that pistol. I just started taking parts and pieces of what I liked and came up with the knife handle. And then I was like, all right, what can make it more ergonomic? That's not here. And I just started looking at how my hand was built. And then we started adding and subtracting from the handles. And that's kind of, because all of our handles look real similar.
Right.
Or at least have those features.
From my experience with these knives in the showroom, and then talking with our customers that own them, they're really happy with, one, the utilitarianism of it. They really work well. And two, they're rugged as can be. So that's always important. You spend over a couple $100, maybe more than that, depending on the knife, and it needs to work all the time and stay together. And these knives certainly do that.
I think when you're going to spend that much money on the custom side, or even on the production side, because our production knives aren't cheap, I think they need to look good and function. Have that ergonomics. I mean, we also try to make them look good closed if we can. I like them to be as appealing in as many ways as possible. And then on the overbuilt thing, we build them for people like Todd, who was in the Corps. We like to make things Marine Corps proof, or as close to as we can.
Well, I noticed that there's several, looking at the knives in the box, there's several crayon colors in there, so that works out pretty good for our Marine Corps brothers.
Got a red one.
Do you like the red?
That's their favorite flavor.
Does the red sing to you?
Yes.
That's the one I would put in my pocket too, the red one.
I like the red as well.
Because it's company colors, the red and the black for us.
I thought when we picked that out, it wasn't fire engine red, but hopefully still appeal to the fire guys. We were kind of shooting for maybe that airborne maroonish, not too bright. The same thing with the orange. It's not really a hunter orange. We went and tried to match as close to our sniper orange as we could get.
Sure.
Through the samples they gave us for the G10.
Yep.
And I think they turned out well. And just OD green's kind of a classic. I like that
for sure.
Well.
And OD green's is a resurgent color. It'll die down for a few years and it'll pop back with a vengeance. In the gear world where I used to work, there's a couple colors you tried to kill, so you can get rid of the skews, and they would just, as soon as you killed them, there would be customers clamoring for it.
How does tan do for you guys these days?
Tan, oh man, it has to be like a coyote brown. Tan's not real good, but I think the coyote brown is more of a more accepted color for things.
Right, a little richer or something. I know we'd gotten some advice once upon a time about tan not being the greatest for, people coming back from the desert were tired of seeing tan stuff. Were you sick of tan stuff for a while?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no one wanted that. And some of that tan that was out there, and especially in the gear world, was like sinus infection green. It really wasn't tan, right? So Eagle Industries had to make a bunch of that stuff for the Special Forces, and none of the dye lots were the same. It was a little bit insane, actually. You'd see gear bags in the SF team rooms, and none of the tan was the same. And the non-commissioned officer, was twitchy a little bit, but...
Eagle was a Missouri company once upon a time.
Yeah.
They made... They either made stuff or would sell stuff to us for the SWAT team. And they were really cool to deal with also.
Yeah, that ownership group was top notch. A little story about those guys. The owner of Tactical Tailor passed away in a car crash suddenly, and my colleague in their organization calls me and says, "Hey, John wants to make your payroll. If you can't, he'll write you a check for your payroll until everything gets straightened out because the owner died." What a class act! They're a competitor of ours. Right. They had absolutely no reason to help us, but they did that.
Yeah, I like those guys. And I think they got bought out, or I'm not sure what Eagle does now.
Well, yeah, Eagle's, as far as I know, Eagle is performing on some government contracts that they have, which are numerous. They're heavy into the SF gear market. They do a lot with aviation.
Did they get purchased though, or the same people own them?
They were, I think they were purchased by the same group that owns Blackhawk.
I guess they absolutely hated the Blackhawk people. Whoever started Blackhawk,
Yeah.
I don't know who that is. But a
Mike
lot of
Noel, I
I
believe.
think they copied a lot of the stuff, like almost exactly. And I know that it just burned their ass.
Well, in the gear world, it's a lot like that. And I learned a valuable lesson about how you only have a unique piece for 12 to 18 months. And that's where I learned it in the gear world. You only have 18 months on something, and then everybody else is going to be doing it. And sometimes it wouldn't even be like that. There are some gear manufacturers out in the world, and I'm sure the knife world's the same way, that as soon as they see your piece being bought by someone, they make one just like it to try to compete. And there's some gear guys out there in the world that would take our designs and make it right down almost to the label. And it was a little disappointing to see that there wasn't that, just come up with your own mousetrap, right?
Yep.
But we tried not to do that. I mean, you squint and look at a magazine pouch and they all kind of look the same, right? The thing that helped us out was our patented attachment system. Logan Coffey developed and patented the malice clip. And then the malice clip is still a standard for attachment across the world.
Right.
So, and it's injection molded, and every time that mold opens up, those money falls out, and those.
Right.
So, it's pretty interesting, and I really enjoyed working that industry. When I came to the firearms industry, it was a big leap for me. But I found that you treat people the same way, and all the things I learned to do in the gear world, I can do in the gun world, and it's a little unusual. And then for what my role is here at the Firearms Academy, and able to meet professionals like yourselves is a great benefit. So I get to expand the people I know, and other people have heard me say this before, but I'll say it again. No man ever went to his grave saying, "Damn, I had too many friends." Right.
Right.
So I try to pile it on where I can.
I think the knife community is that way for the most part. I mean, there are a few tools in there, but most of them are really pretty good about it. If you need help on something, or sometimes you'll make something and you'll be like, "Hey, this kind of looks like somebody else's, whatever." And if you call them up and be like, "Hey, does this look too close? Do you care if I use it?" And most of the time they're like, "No, it's fine." They're pretty good dudes.
Yeah, I had an interesting phone call by an up-and-coming gear designer when I was down at Tactical Tailor, and he says, "I can't believe you guys copied my design." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" It was a knife pouch with a flap on it. I was like, "How many ways can you make a knife pouch with a flap on it?" He's like, "Well, that's our design." I'm like, "Okay, we'll have to disagree there," and agree that that's a disagreement. We had been making that knife pouch for Benchmade knives and Gerber knives for their multi-tools for probably 9 years at that point. Same pouch. So a little short-sighted. So a lot of times you'll have people that think they have the best thing, they just didn't do their research.
Right. Another, it's just an aside, but in that area of Oregon and Portland where all those knife makers are, Almar.
Yeah.
I was friends with Almar when I was a little kid. I think that may have cemented some of the knife thing. We had gone out, my dad had bought knives from him based on something he'd seen on a magazine cover. And he bought them for company gifts, so Al made us a deal on knives. And we'd met him at the Guild show, used to be in Kansas City for a good handful of years when I was younger. And we met him at the Knife Makers Guild show. And he was like, "Oh, if you ever get out around Portland area, come by." And probably just being friendly. We're on a family vacation out west, and my dad was like, "Nancy," that's my mom, he's like, "We should go see your Uncle Bob in Portland." And she's like, "Well, that's so nice, Gary. Yeah, let's do that." So we're at Uncle Bob's for like no more than 20 minutes, and he's on the phone with Almar. He's like, "Hey, can we come by?" And he's like, "Yeah." So we went over to the house, and I got a knife fighting lesson. I learned about scrimshaw. Nick ran around in the backyard with Rayanne. A mini kendo lesson. I got my first subscription to Soldier of Fortune at like 11. My mom wasn't real thrilled, but he just couldn't have been any nicer. He's a good dude.
Yeah, Colonel Brown, he changed a lot of people's lives with that magazine, huh? I I can remember reading that as a child too, when it was like on newspaper. Remember that?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
It had a slick cover, but the interior was like newspaper
Like
feel.
Shotgun News or something.
Yeah, it was a lot like that. And
Yeah.
I can remember reading those, and just like your mother, mine was not very happy with that.
No, I think she was afraid I was going to become a mercenary or something. She was.
Yeah.
I also begged them to send me to military school, which they wouldn't do. I've never quite forgiven them for that either. But I think the movie Taps may have changed my young life.
Yeah, and man, that was where Tom Cruise started off, right?
Tom Cruise, Sean Penn,
Yeah,
Timothy Hutton,
right. All those young
George
guys.
C. Scott.
Mm-hmm.
Probably another famous one or two in there if you hunt hard enough.
Yep, I haven't seen it in probably 10 years.
You boys ever seen Taps? Getting a lot of
Oh my
no's.
gosh, that's a good one. You should do that this weekend. There's a lot of bad things that happen in that movie, by the way. But you know all the characters, you just didn't know their names, right? You've
Yeah,
met
sure.
characters just like them.
Show of hands, original Red Dawn or new Red Dawn? Have you seen either?
I've seen the new one.
Oh gosh.
I saw the original in basic. I was in basic training, Army basic training at Fort Knox when I saw the first one.
I think that's the first movie I ever drove to. I just turned 16-ish
Mhm.
and went to that, and that was awesome.
And that really told the story about. I never really realized the connectivity between. They tied Russians to the Cubans and then other communist satellite countries, and that was interesting for me to see that.
Oh yeah,
We're kind
don't-
of jumping around a lot, though, huh?
that's all right. The Cuban thing's interesting, like back from the Cold War days. They would fly satellites when they were battling over Africa.
Mm-hmm.
They would fly, it was either satellites or like U-2 spy planes, but they'd fly them over and they would count the number of baseball fields because baseball's so big in Cuba, and they knew by how many baseball fields were built out in the jungle approximately how many troops from Cuba were stationed.
I'll be dang. That's interesting. That makes sense. So how many pizza deliveries goes to the Pentagon when there's there's an operation being planned? That's sort of the same thing.
Right?
So back to the BladeWorks guys. Where do you guys see yourselves in the next 5 years? Where do you want to go? Where do you want to be?
We want to do more customs, and we just opened up shop again and back in Northtown.
Mm-hmm.
So we'd like to see doing more customs come out. I'd like to see us implement a few more knives into the lineup. We're working on a completely American-made production knife, which would be good.
Yeah.
The price won't be amazing on that, but for those cats that really want that, I'd like to have that.
Let's explore that together in a second about American-made versus things that are made offshore. The prices and what the appetite for those prices are in the American consumer. Can you tell me what your thoughts are on that?
Well, obviously I want to employ Americans and
Sure.
keep the economy strong, and I'm pretty good flag waving kind of right winger. I'm a right wing hippie, kind of actually. But where it's made, I don't think really matters as far as a quality standpoint, as long as the machinery is correct, the materials are correct, and the people, the machinists running it, are doing their job. It makes no difference. It could be made here, it could be made in Mexico.
Philippines.
If we took our whole operation and started making knives in Mexico, would they be any different? As long as the tolerances are the same.
Yeah, as long as you
So that
maintain.
doesn't bunch me up too bad.
Yeah.
But we wanted to hit a price point that cops and firemen and EMTs and military guys could all afford.
Right.
And the only real way to do that was to do it offshore.
Sure.
Now, we did avoid China, just because I don't have anything against Chinese people, but their government's a little off. So that was kind of a big sticking point. And our partner in this, Adam, he went to work out of college for a bunch of right-wing think tanks.
Mm-hmm.
He worked for the guy, I can't remember his last name, it's Roger, but this is the cat that sold the plan to Reagan on how to take down the Soviet Union, the military spending.
Yeah.
So we're all kind of cut from the same bolt of cloth. So, it was kind of a no-brainer that we wanted to avoid China.
Sure.
But yeah, where it's made, as long as the tolerances are correct, that doesn't really make any difference.
So the move to an offshore manufactured, maybe even or assembled in the United States. I'm not sure. Are you assembled here, or are you made completely overseas?
Most of it's done there. Some of it is assembled here, depending
Okay.
on time frames and how we get it.
Right. But if I guess what I was getting at there is, you saw the only a fraction of your clientele being able to afford a knife, and you shifted your manufacturing to accommodate a greater swath of a client base, and there's nothing wrong with that. As an entrepreneur, you have to do those things to keep the 20 or so people you have employed in the United States employed.
Right.
And so who cares if there's 50 in Mexico or the Philippines or in Colombia that are making the product for you? But you're as an entrepreneur, we have to think about those 10 to 15 to 20 or 30 boots when they get out of bed every morning here in the United States and keeping them working, and we have to take steps to make that happen.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And and I'm just happy that more people can get our knives. I'm happy that our friends can have them now, and I don't have to give them away.
Everybody's got a good buddy once they get a nice product, right?
Well, especially when I start cocktailing, I'm like, oh yeah, I'll take it. That part has pretty much been taken away from me.
Office, and there's a whole case full of.
I don't know. I might fall off the wagon for that. I don't know. Where would you like to see done, Todd?
I really, really want to get the custom side more stood up, and like you, back in the day when we were doing nothing but customs, we had to do customs to sustain. Now that the production side is sustaining the company, we get to do customs, and it's given us more liberty. It's given us
I think that attitude shift helps too, right? It's like those guys that don't really dig their job, and they're like, they know how many days and hours they have till retirement, and then they get to that point, and then they stay on for another 5 years, right? Because at any point they can just say, yeah, stick it, I'm out.
Right.
And it just somehow you have a little better attitude when you feel like you have more options. And I think that'll be fun. Plus it'll also open up some creativity for us, where I'm not having to make rent unless I sell this next custom. We can make
We don't have to worry. We don't have to worry about a customer dictating what they want on their knife. We can make what we want on the knife.
Yeah, and I think it just opens up some doors for like creativity and just learning new things.
So how far away do you think you are on getting that program up and running?
Oh, we're already up and running.
Oh, great.
Yeah, we're still fine tuning a few things in the new space, but we'll have customs out here in just a few weeks.
It's fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Now I'm just trying to remember, do we know how to do all this stuff? It's been a minute, but it seems like it's coming back pretty good.
I'm sure there won't be a problem for you, And I'm happy that you guys are in a position where you can pivot back to where you came from, right? Well, that's always the sticky spot with people in our line of work. You move on and you do what's really successful off the bat, and then you transition over to a better business model, and then you never really get to go back to where you came from, and sometimes you lose sight of that. That's fantastic. You guys are going to get to do that.
Yeah, I'm really excited about that.
Right on, right on. So where do we see you when you're not here?
We are going to be at Blade West.
Okay. And what city is that in?
It's in Salt Lake.
Oh, cool.
The 7th and the 8th, so we're going to miss TriggerCon.
Dang.
I know.
Man.
And we
should get Blade West to move there.
Maybe. I mean,
they've moved every year they've been in existence.
Oh, really?
Yes.
They ran out of Portland for a few years.
Okay.
They were in Los Angeles last year, somewhere in Southern California.
Mm-hmm.
And then Salt Lake, this is the first year for that. So I like the Mountain West, so I'm kind of looking forward to going out there.
I like Salt Lake City. That's always been a nice place to visit.
It's been a minute since I've been there.
Right.
So
You'll drive by that information farm out there that has all of our data in it.
Oh, right.
Big gray buildings on the side of a hill.
Maybe the Skinwalker Ranch on the way out there. I don't know. That show kind of creeps me out on TV. I don't know if I want to see it for real.
No, I don't think so. Not for me.
I get the heebie-jeebies over some of that
Not
stuff.
for me.
And then, we'll be down. We may do some stuff out of our shop. Have a couple of open house things. And we'll probably be at Blade again in Atlanta next year.
Sure. Well, we have manufacturers in here all the time. There's absolutely no reason why we couldn't have you in here for a weekend.
I think that'd be fun.
We do we'll do a couple specials on some knives. Maybe if you have some stuff that's been you've been trying to move, we can move them here and get you guys in here so that my customer can talk to you about what, if they didn't see this video, they can ask you why you did this or what's the reason behind that and
another neat thing we are going to do, I just thought about this, but we have a handful of knives coming in that we left partially unfinished, and then we're going to take those and do some custom touches to them.
Nice.
So kind of a mid-tech sort of thing, but you'll see some different colors, you might see some different grinds.
Probably want to Cerakote some blades and stuff like that.
Yeah, some anodizing, and I'm not sure why, but I just want to do a Rhodesian paint job on a knife for some reason. So,
our Cerakote guy did a Rhodesian treatment on an AR. It really looked, well, no, it was on a pistol, wasn't it? Pistol. Yeah, it really looked cool. It was for some dude out of the Ranger Regiment.
I mean, you gotta sort of appreciate that kind of thing, but those are neat. So it'll be fun to see what happens with that. But that'd be great. We could make a few of those and then bring them down so when people want to come out, they could get something that wasn't just standard if they wanted to.
Yeah, especially since it didn't look like you guys are going to be able to make TriggerCon. We can open our doors up for you to come down on a special day.
That'd be amazing.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
And you're close, right?
Yeah.
I might come up and see you guys and catch a baseball game.
Yeah, please do.
It'd be awesome.
Take you to Chapels.
Never
You gotta
been.
go to Chapels.
Never been.
Yeah, it's kind of a sports museum bar where we like to hang out.
Oh, wow.
And all those other cats, you get to meet some of them too, the rifle builders.
Yeah, they all hang out there too.
Oh, that's neat. Yeah, that would be interesting for me. They wouldn't know who I am, but I would know who most of they are. That's good.
I don't know, it sounds like we all have some friends.
Yeah, it's a small industry, and then being in, I lived in the Seattle area for 15 years, so I got a chance to meet a bunch of people in the industry, from Spyderco to SOG knives to the Benchmade guys were really close with me. We did a lot of sewn nylon work for their military projects. Gerber's the same way. So, and then the firearms industry is alive and well there in that area too. You got used to have Gray Ghost Precision there. I was vice president of sales for that company, and then Aero Precision is downtown Tacoma, like downtown Tacoma. It's in several buildings there that you'd have to look and see. There's a firearms industry in Tacoma, Washington, but there is, and it's amazingly big. And they've done some things to make themselves bigger, but I think that the writing's on the wall for all those companies to try to find a new home.
Yeah.
Because the way politics is sliding.
Yeah, some of our friends from out there, I think, have started to look at other options.
And it's
maybe other states. It's not good for business.
Well, I think that for a lot of things, if the politics in the area that you live in don't meet your smell test, you can move. That's the beautiful thing about this country.
Do you guys like Wichita, by the way?
Okay, so first I'm going to tell you how I like it. I absolutely love it here. People are friendly. It's inexpensive to live. When they talk about traffic, I giggle, right? So all those things are pretty good. Now, I wish there was a closer grocery store, but they're working on that. Other than that, it was great. As a business, it couldn't be more advantageous for us. It's smack dab in the middle of the country. Our customer to the big Rainier website, Rainier Main website, has decreased transit times now because we're in the center instead of shipping out of the Northwest. So if you're in Miami, it's a 6-day transit for your package from Seattle to Miami, whereas now it's only 2 days, maybe 3, right? So we cut all that in half just by moving here. So our customer really benefits from it. And we save some money on inbound transit.
Help with your shipping stuff.
Oh yeah, so our inbound stuff is less expensive.
Wichita is just neat. I mean, I think it's got some cool history because it has all the aviation and maybe some aerospace stuff to it as well. As I learn more about knife making and then the production side of it, I think manufacturing is really interesting, and I know they have a rich history of that here.
Yeah, there's no shortage of people that can run machines here. That's a fact.
Right.
Right. So what we find is finding the right skill set to do the things we need to do in the firearms industry is a little different because of the difference in manufacturing parameters between aircraft parts and weapons parts. You would think that the tolerance would be similar, but I think the languages are different. Is the only thing.
You know, we run into that a little bit when we would try and get machinists to help us with like handle parts.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, they're squared away, but sometimes they're just off a little bit. And remember Fellholder?
Yeah.
Really cool knife maker. And he was, he may have been a machinist or some kind of engineer. He worked on crap for NASA or a company that supplied NASA with parts for the space station.
Oh wow!
And he had some machine shop make him some stuff that was one that they used for NASA stuff, and they jacked his crap all up. Right? I mean, you're like, we're in outer space with pressures and all kinds of weird crap going on. Can't you make a folder part that locks up? And so yeah, sometimes that is a little weird. You think they'd be able to just jump right in there.
So it gets lost in translation, maybe.
Something.
Yeah, that's always the thing we battle as well. When you find you use a contractor that wasn't familiar with the part previously, there's some growing pains with that. And coatings, for whatever reason, is always a little bit of a sticky spot. Some people's version of black nitrite's not ours, so we have to be careful with that.
What coating is your guys' favorite at the moment, or brand?
Oh, man, I'm the wrong guy to ask. We do a black nitrite on most of our parts.
Okay.
But I'm not sure who's doing it now because it's changed a couple times. We like that. We like that coating because it has its own lubricity, you know, and it's tough. It adds life to barrels. All those things. There's a lot of upside to it. And I learned that when I was with Gray Ghost. I worked with a guy named Jason Kearns out there who taught me a lot about the benefits of that coating as a firearms coating. So, and we do, and you know, on top of it, we do Cerakote. We love that. We love that stuff because it's a creative palette for the consumer, right?
Right.
They can get whatever it is that they want, whatever they can envision. We have a customer here that's leopard print everything. Everything's got a leopard print on it, and I think all of her guns, which are numerous, has some version of leopard print on it that we did here in the shop.
Nice.
As a matter of fact, that our Cerakote guy taught himself to do her guns. So he's kind of like you. He didn't know what he was doing, but he figured it out.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? Not to the degree you did.
Oh no, I didn't know shit from apple butter. It's true. I didn't even know what a milling machine was. I remember asking Jody, I'm like, how do we do that thing where you relieve the lock? How do you get that in there? And it was like magic. He's like, it's a milling machine. I'm like, oh, what is that? And he's like, it's kind of like a glorified drill press, Lance.
Do you have any in the wild stories about your product in the hands of a professional that used it to save a life or maybe not save a life? Or
Oh, I mean, we've gotten some stuff on TV. I mean, that was just kind of neat. But Michael Hawk had a couple of our knives, and then a shovel thing that we were helping him develop. Mikey and I did it together.
Mm-hmm.
So I just thought that was really cool, from going from being at the sheriff's department to, hey, I'm just going to quit and make knives. And then we got some stuff on television.
Right.
I had made really cool moon glow liners so that it looked a lot like the Mammoth with the orange handle.
Mm-hmm.
But I had moon glow liners because I'm like, I want to see it at night. And then they filmed in Alaska in the summertime, so it was never dark. So that I spent a shit ton of time working on that, and I'm like, damn it. But the orange handles looked good. One of our buddies, and this isn't a military thing, he's like a missionary, but he was over in Africa, and he's rolling into town one day, and they're having some kind of uprising. He's about ready to cross the bridge, and all these armed people, he said he saw somebody get killed with a machete right in front of him.
Oh,
Or on
gosh.
the other side of the bridge, so closer than you'd want to be. And they were working back across the bridge towards him, but he's like, I had my LPC on me. He's like, I felt like I had a fighting chance. And a car had crossed the bridge, and I don't know if he asked him to get in or if maybe he carjacked them to get in, but he got in. and made it to safety, and he's back in the States now. He's a good dude.
Wow.
But I thought that was an interesting story. He's like, he goes, I just felt so much better having that on me. I'm like, all right, cool.
That's awesome.
We've also made, we have a version of a push dagger. And we
that we made for the fifth group guys.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Right, that's my dad's group, actually, when he was in Vietnam.
Yep.
Were they out of Fort Campbell then?
No, they were out of Fort Bragg.
Okay. These guys are all out of Campbell.
Yep.
But I don't know, so I got kind of worried about my buddy, and I had some leftover, like maybe titanium. So it really just looked like a glorified nail, but I put a neat handle and tried to make it ergonomic. I wrapped it up and sent it to him. I'm like, just take this with you, you never know.
So it's like a spike?
Mm-hmm. Like like an ice pick, but with a T handle on it.
Oh my gosh.
And some angle.
I've done a couple of different grinds on some custom versions. I did a dagger grind on one that we still have at the shop, and it's got some custom handles that are put on it.
When I sent him that one, he said, I like it, but can you put an edge on it?
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, it'd be like trying to sharpen a nail. It's going to have to get bigger. And he's like, okay. So I whipped something up, sent it to him. He showed it, left it in the team room. They made some suggestions, sent it back. And then we came up with, we finally all settled on one. I'll show you a picture here in a minute. They're pretty cool. And so yeah, we made like 20 of them for them. And we still may make those. I don't know. I mean, some of the legality thing of, I know push daggers and things that are double-edged, you can't sell everywhere.
Right.
And I mean, for that group of people, I felt comfortable selling it to them. But
absolutely.
So yeah. So anyways, it had an edge. We chisel ground an edge on there, so just sharp on one side. And then the tip was pretty cool. We ran it in the slack of the belt, so it's just domed. So it kind of looks like a snow cone of death.
That's crazy. That's going to be the quote of the whole show: snow cone of death.
Yeah. So, but we thought those turned out pretty good, and they're kind of fun to make. So we might do that again, but I don't know if that'd be a production.
I've always loved that design of knife, the push dagger. I always thought it was very. I don't know about it. Practical's not the right word. It just looks sinister, right? If you're going to go after somebody with that, it seems like that would be the place in your hand you would need it to use it.
Well, and that's why they ask for the edge. They're like, I like it for what it's designed for, but I also, if I want to try and carry less kit, can you put an edge on it so it
I can
works
cut
as
things.
a knife? And then they also talked about prying out 50 cal rounds or something with it. So I'm like, okay. So
And what did you make those out of? Titanium?
No, the first one was titanium that just looked like a spike. These we made out of 1095. So a few, and I heat treated them all the same. We can differentially heat treat. So if you actually hand sand it and etch it, you'll see a hamon on there, like on a samurai sword where that line waves down.
Right on.
And then everything below it is harder and everything above it is softer. So I heat treated them all that way. So you had the benefits of that, but a lot of them we just coated. Now since he was my boy, he also wanted handles, and I'm like, I'll make you handles, but don't show anybody else because it's a great big pain in the ass. And I put a fuller blood groove in it, and then we hamoned it and stuck handles on it. It's pretty badass.
Yeah, that sounds interesting. If you ever bring those out in some type of production model, I'm sure I'd like a couple of them in the store.
Yeah, I mean, I think if we get through to make sure like the legalities of it are okay. I mean, I'd like to make it again. It'd be neat, and probably wouldn't be too expensive.
Yeah, and there's people out there making CQB, CQM blades, neck knives all the time. But like you said, the push handle and the double-edged blade is sometimes a little sticky. You guys coming from an LE background will understand that. You understand where those landmines are better than I would.
Well, those blue states get a little.
Yeah, wow. There was a time, when I was in the firearms industry, or when I worked for Grey Ghost, there were just some places we wouldn't ship guns out of principle.
Right.
Right. So, Barrett decided they weren't going to service any of the 50 caliber rifles that California owned. They just said, no, we're not going to service them. That's crazy to me. But I love the principle that they stood on. So. Kind of drove us to take a look at some of these blue states that don't have their own citizens' best interests at heart. So coming up into this weekend, where we're going to celebrate our nation's birthday, the day we gave England the finger.
Right.
Right. And so, you know, I think that what better way than to talk to a great American that's building knives and in both places, you know, overseas and in the Kansas City area, that services a wide variety of clients, but focuses on a very specific client that has our best interests at heart every day. You know, law enforcement, military, and firefighters and EMTs. We really appreciate the time you took to spend with us today.
Yeah, well, thanks for having us.
Any questions about that you have of me?
What kind of watch are you wearing?
I'm wearing, it's an Invicta,
Okay.
believe it or not. Yeah.
Do you know which one? It's good looking. I'm kind of a watch.
Oh man, you
so.
know, I wish I knew. At one time I could tell you everything there was to know about this watch, but I bought it off of the television.
From Jim Skelton.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you know Skelton?
I talked to him on TV a couple times.
I talked to Skelton like 2 days ago.
No kidding.
I was like, Jim.
He's a good friend of ours.
So we met him. He was a knife guy.
Mm-hmm.
So we met him through knives, and I think we made a DMF for him. And then somewhere in there, he started making knives
Really?
after he got out of that TV thing for watches. But yeah, so and he's had a couple health issues lately, like a spinal, muscular
Oh gosh.
kind of thing. So it's jacking up how much he can work. So I
You know-
just kind of called to check on him. But I'm like, let's talk watches for a few minutes, right? I want to relive the old days. And he went off on some topic, and I almost like glanced up at the TV, expected to see him there. I'm like, this is perfect. Just like the old days. I think I was asking, like, am I out of my mind if I want a Grand Seiko? Right? You know, because they're not Rolex prices, but they're not cheap.
Right.
But they're badass. The machining on that and the finishing and tolerances, that spring drive thing,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it runs mechanical and quartz. So it doesn't ever need a battery because it's still winding, but it sends a tiny little electric signal, so it regulates like a quartz. So the accuracy on it's ridiculous. And then the second hand sweeps perfectly. They're like nothing else will sweep.
Oh
like
wow.
that.
So there's not even a faint tick.
Like where you get like 5 ticks a second on an automatic or something, or you just get tick, tick, tick on some of the quartz things. It's just a perfect sweep.
Wow.
You know, it costs $8,000 to get that, but it's still pretty
Oh,
badass.
chump change for somebody like you. It should be. That's lunch money.
As long as Mrs. Sniper doesn't find out, she's about ready to murder me.
Hey, we always have to bring our CFOs in on the conversation, right?
Yeah,
You
so
can't
I
just
told
like
She'll call up. I'm like, hang on, it's corporate. I need to take this.
right? Shoot, I tell people all the time that come in here with their wives. I'm like, oh, awesome. Someone is going to sign off on your PO on the spot. So now we don't have to wait for you to think about it and try to tell her about it. It's right here, and you can tell her about it right now.
Exactly.
And it's vice versa sometimes too. We have ladies in here that we had one lady that came in here and bought 3 guns at one time, and then she's like, "Man, my husband's gonna die when I get home." I says, "Really?" She goes, "Yeah." He goes, "Yeah," or she goes, "Yeah, yeah." He doesn't like all these guns. I'm like, holy smokes, that's a role reversal if I've ever heard one, right?
Did you marry an American?
Right?
I had some lady in a class like that the other day, but yeah, her husband was from England, so he just didn't quite get it.
You know, it's interesting. We have a lot of foreign customers that come in here because we have flight safety systems that are in the area, and all the airline pilots have to make their way through here at one time or another. So they have simulators and training and all that stuff that goes on here. And so we have a lot of foreign customers that come in here, and they're truly blown away by the fact that they can grab a machine gun off a wall, walk back there and shoot it, and then give it back to us, and no one's going to go to jail.
Right.
Or they're like, or they see the knives in the box, and there's an auto knife in there, and they're like, oh, no, where's never can I have one of those? I said, pretty soon you won't be able to put butter on your bread.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that whole auto knife thing, I think, came in after like West Side Story. There's some connection to that, and they're like, yeah, it's kind of half racist. Like that would never go through again today. But I mean, I think that's what happens when people make laws that have no understanding, like firearms laws or knife laws. They just, it sounded good at the time, but it's not very well thought out.
Well, man, I'm fond of saying that many of us, when I say us, other people, right? Once they find themselves to be powerless to affect something, they feel like they need to do something. And most of the time, that something is going to be detrimental to the population as a whole. And our politicians fall down that rabbit hole all the time. You know, can we regulate evil? We've been trying to do that since man picked up a club, right?
Yeah. Right.
And so I don't think that that's going to be the case. So by telling you can't have item X, right? Well, you'll go to item Y to take care of that business that's been going on since we could pick up a club.
Yep.
Right. So you guys saw that more than most people in your former lives.
Oh yeah.
You know, evil rides around and doesn't take a day off.
No, it doesn't also care about a lot of these laws.
No. I remember I was in Seattle about 10 years ago, and I was carrying a pistol in church. I had a P7 on. That's before a lot of people carried guns in church. And I brushed by the pastor and or our priest in the hallway, and he bumped into my pistol, and he just looked at me and stopped. He goes, "You carrying a gun in church?" I'm like, "Mm-hmm." He goes, "Why would you do something like that?" I said, "Well, evil don't take Sunday off."
And people flip out of church all the time.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's before there was a lot of church shootings and things.
Right.
Yeah. And the fact of the matter was I was going someplace that I needed a pistol after church. And that's why I had it on.
I've always carried in church.
Yeah. It seems like a victim collective, right?
Oh, yeah.
So, and I try to stay away from those places. Yeah.
Churches or victim collective?
I have to go to church, man. My soul needs it.
Yeah. Well, make sure you're right with the Lord.
That's right. Well, you know, I don't know if I'm right with him, but, you know, he's friendly to me, for sure. He sure has blessed me all my whole life.
That may be our new Sniper BladeWorks motto. Helping you in this life and the next.
Right? I love it. Well, if there's nothing else, we'll just we'll end it up here with thanks for coming out.
Thanks for having us. I
really appreciate you making the trip down.
Yep.
I really do. So
this was fun.
Once again, this is Over the Barrel with Sniper BladeWorks. Really had a great conversation. We'll hope to have you in the house again.
Yeah, we'll get back as soon as we can.
Yep. Thanks so much.